All right, that was fun. I just did a full listen through and a deep dive stop start analysis of both of the songs that Lady Gaga sang from SNL last night. She did an adaptation of Abracadabra as well as her song Killah, which we saw. Super cool. I'm just going to talk about those a little bit over here. I can't play very much of it. Whenever I try to do something that from SNL the morning after, I always get the circle with the slash through it when I upload it, and it doesn't even show up. It won't even be visible at all on YouTube. So that's why I put up my full reaction to it, full nonstop listen through, and then stop start analysis over on Patreon, so that we can at least get that out there. But for you guys, I just want to give you the recap of my thoughts, what I thought about her vocals, were they live, which we're going to talk about, and just what other interesting stuff was happening. So let's get into that now. Here we go. So first thing I want to talk about is whether or not her vocals were live, to my opinion, because I was talking in the community about how much I should talk about pitch correction, and pretty much the community consensus was I need to talk about when a vocal is live, I need to celebrate it harder. Like, instead of focusing on the negative, they say, do mention it if you think that it was auto-tuned, pitch corrected, or lip synced. You don't need to go into a deep dive forensic on it, but if it's a live vocal, if you really think it's an actual live, they just sang with a mic live, then you need to throw a party about it, because that's a big deal. And that's what we're about celebrating on this channel. And I'm pulling up the software to show you all that I 100% believe that Lady Gaga was singing live here.
Pay the toll to the angels, drawing circles in the clouds.
There is no doubt in my mind that's live. I already went through this a lot over on Patreon, so if you want to find out more about that, come join me over there. But I just wanted to show you a little bit that we did do the deep dive over there, and I think she was singing live when she's doing all of this movement, and that's the crazy thing. You got to check this out. Like, to do what she did live with that much movement and be singing. And also, what I think I want to show you is the arrangement was different. The arrangement... So these little bell chimey things are not in the original music video. This was an adapted backing track for this dance number here, probably designed exclusively for this SNL performance. Maybe it's designed for the tour. I'm assuming she's going to tour this or is touring. I'm not up on her tour schedule. I'm sorry. I just want to play for you. I have to be careful. I can only play 4 or 5 seconds at a time, I think. I want to show you how the backing track cuts out at certain moments in the first verse. And I have a theory. I don't know. I have a working theory on why she did it like that. All right, so check this out.
Pay the toll to the angels.
Did you notice that the backing track cut out there so far so that she could sing? She didn't do that in the music video. This is different just for this performance. Check that out again.
Pay the toll to the angels.
It's almost as if she wants to put it in our face that this is live. Another big thing to point out, her movement was amazing with the amount of singing she was doing.
Light, save me from this empty fight.
So right there, she was a little sharp on that note, which makes sense because she's flying through the air. It's tough to have perfect pitch when you're flying through the air, people. Listen. She was save. She went a little sharp on save because she just landed on somebody, right? Just like a real human being performing for us, for real. Ah, that's my party. So, such good vocal quality versatility here, both in this song and also in Killah too. She just sounded great. So she wasn't singing in the parts where there was the like Abracadabra, when they were having that looping thing there in the field, the beat under your skin, or whatever the words are here. She wasn't singing those parts, and she didn't even try. It was obviously that those parts were in the backing track because there wasn't anything happening there. See? Her mouth's not moving there, so that wasn't live there. And she wasn't trying to be, and I don't think that's a big deal at all. Now on this high note here, and she goes, oh, in the music video, she did that part here, but she didn't quite open her mouth enough, I thought, to really get that note. So what I think is happening here, I think she's so out of breath that it's hard to get that full on. And I think what she did was she kind of kept her mouth closed and contained a little bit for the high note thing here. Listen. Like in the music video, that note was much fuller. She sounded like she had a more open throat, like an open operatic type of a sound. She didn't do that here. It was much more contained and smaller, almost like she was just kind of, just keep it small. Don't make a big deal out of it. And I could see that being a good choice for the amount of movement. I mean, I'm getting out of breath just trying to pull this off. And her cardio is insane. It's insane to sing this well and dance this intensely. It's insane. And I love the adapted dance choreography because it definitely has a feel of the music video, but not full out. It's adapted. It's like some of the style of movement, that weird walking kind of kooky stuff. It's like it still has that angular, jerky, zombie-esque type of a zombie bride type of a movement, right? It's still got that feel to it, but it's adapted for the stage. Brilliant, innovative, creative readaptation of this song to the Saturday Night Live stage, which is like this big. It's super, super small. I love this little like dead bug pose where they're just hands up like this. The background performers in both of these songs were unbelievable. Absolutely, absolutely insane. And Lady Gaga's tone here, as far as vocal tone goes, as a voice teacher, in the verses and stuff, in the lower parts, she would do a little more introspective stuff, kind of. She wasn't quite as driven brassy, but this whole song's pretty brassy. And that just means lots of vocal fold closure, lots of thickening of the vocal folds, lots of pressure against that thickening. Bop, bop, bop. That's what creates that brassy, trumpety sound. And she's got a lot of that throughout this song, except for that part I just showed you with the bridge, where she goes into her sort of opera-esque type of high notes there. All right, now we're going to bounce over to checking out Killah. We're just going to point out a couple little things over here. First of all, this was really interesting, her starting backstage. What an interesting contrast to have these costumes, like costumes intended for a theatrical experience, being in a fluorescently lit hallway in the backstage of, SNL. I find that kind of funny. Super funky. The song has a real funkiness to it. Eventually she gets up on stage with the band later after she does her little, almost like kind of weird little zombie walk again. So much of the movement. I know you guys talked about one of the songs is Zombie Bride or something, or there's a Zombie Bride theme in it. I don't know. I saw that in a comment somewhere. It feels like a lot of the movement, a lot of the dance. I did take a little dance back in the day. I've done a lot of crazy performing stuff. It seems like a lot of the dance is like has some of those zombie-esque type of physicality throughout, like like Monster Night or something like that. It's really interesting. So creative. That wasn't though. That little movement was like almost looked like a flapper movement from like the 20s dancing style. In the corner smoking that grass and the boys all pass me by. Hear her tone there. Ba, 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 ba. Super brassy again. Oh my God, while we're paused, I just noticed this. Look at the dancer in the back near the water fountain. Oh my God, that is funny. There's so much detail in this. I feel like I should have watched this through again, just thinking about all the kooky stuff like that. And that was one of my notes that I talked about over on Patreon, was like the performers that she surrounds herself with, the dancers. And I think these two behind her in the pink and the yellow, I think they become her background singers later on. Once she gets on stage, I think that's the same ones. Talking to with your head. All right, so I want to show you one other little part that's interesting vocally here. She does a da 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 da. She does this kind of bopping up in her voice thing here, which is really cool. Like her mixing, she flips and then comes back into the brass. Yeah, you wanna be cool, but you're making me mad. Wanna be cool, but you're making me mad. So she was like flipped up into her head mix. And then, wanna be cool if you're making me mad. And then she flipped into her brass as she came down. She was doing that a lot in this part right here. It's super cool. Yeah, you wanna be cool, but you're making me mad. But my lip, it starts to bleed. So that was called mixing. If she had gone up, but you wanna be cool and you're making me mad, that would have been her staying in her belt, staying in her thickened tone, staying in that brassy metallic quality of her voice. But she didn't. She kind of let it flip up into her head mix for a second. And then she gets brassy as she belts up here.
Yeah, it tastes so good, but it gotta be bad if I'm gonna get you home.
Then she gets belty right here.
Gonna make the curtains scream, believe it.
Do you see it? She took a breath in between. It's kind of like almost like a trumpet. Rip, 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 ba ba ba. That was what she was doing there. Listen to that little vocal technique there. Kind of bop, 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 bop. She just kind of put it in her ringer, pressed it, stopped it, took a little breath, right? Which is really good because of how much movement she's doing. There was so much interesting dance and movement here. Look, they get down on the floor here, this dancing. So, again, this is so live. You could hear her voice wiggle when she kicked her legs. I love that. This is real. She's got a mic. She's laying on the floor doing these crazy dance moves, singing. Yeah. It's so funny nowadays as a musician. You would think that I would be focusing on celebrating, okay, well, she wiggled her legs, but her voice didn't wiggle. That's not what I'm thinking about. I'm celebrating that I heard her voice wiggle because that means it was real. Isn't that weird that that's where we're at in society now? That if her voice was not wiggling when she was doing this movement, that would be a problem, you know? It's all about authenticity and being truthful. Lady Gaga is the real deal. This is legit. All right, let's check out some other crazy stuff she's doing. All right, so we have this whole zombie killer thing here. See, she's talking about zombie killers and stuff, and I know you guys mentioned the zombie bride thing or something. I'm gonna have to react to this whole album. I think just all of her stuff that she's doing around it. It's so interesting. Now let's go over to the band. I want you to see the band. Let's see who those backgrounds. Yeah. So look, we've got the girl in pink. Yeah, both look in the back, both over here and over here. The background dancers have become the background singers. They're such dynamic dancers, too.
I'm gonna make you scream, that's a matter of fact, don't be a fantasy. I'm a killer.
Hear that mixing she's doing up into the top? Susie, ba 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 ba. I'm a killer. So much mixing, really good mixing. Now, last thing I need to talk about here is the scream. There is a really cool scream that happens here. And when it first started happening, when I heard it first time, I went, I almost jumped out of the chair. But then she pulls the mic away and the scream keeps continuing. So then I was like, okay, let me see if I can find it in the extracted vocal, go back and give it a look and see, was that a legit scream or was it baked into the track? And I don't know. The answer is I'm not quite sure. I couldn't tell because the software wasn't able to extract the scream so we can analyze it isolated. It considered it as noise or a part of the track. And maybe you could argue that that's evidence that it is in the track, but I wouldn't say that is an argument you could make. I don't really know. I'm not sure if it was a live. It could be live. I used to have a show where I would make a song go, hello, and I could hit a button and it would take the last like 2 or 3 seconds of whatever I did and would start a loop of it. So it's like if I did, hello, 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 and then I could change how much of the sound it grabbed. So I can make it like grab 5 seconds and then just keep repeating that, or 10 seconds. And I'm wondering with this scream if that's what they did. Maybe she did a scream for a little bit and then they grabbed it and started looping it after the fact. Give that a listen and let me know what you think. See how the scream kept going even though she pulled the mic away and started dancing? It did get a lot quieter. It kind of like faded into the background. So it was louder at the front and then it faded into the background. It could be that that's what they did. I think that's what happened. If I were betting on it, and I wouldn't bet a lot of money on this bet, okay? I would bet a lot of money that this was a live vocal, but I don't think I would bet a lot of money that note was live. But if I was betting money, I would bet more on the side that she sang it live and then they did that little sort of looping effect or sort of grab it with a lot of reverb and let it sort of decay out. That's what I think they did. I don't think that she didn't sing it live. I don't think it was in the backing track. That's my hunch. But if you told me, no, Tim, you're wrong about that, I would be like, okay, I could see that too. That's how I feel about that. I have to say, I was completely blown away by Lady Gaga doing this. I thought this had incredible artistic vision. I thought there was brilliant creativity in the way that she performed both of these pieces inside of the SNL space in a creative, innovative way. The way that she adapted Abracadabra to the smaller stage, changed up the arrangement in an interesting way, kind of almost just flaunting how live her vocals were. I loved that. And then this Killah song, the creativeness of starting backstage, walking out, singing live, laying on the floor with a mic, kicking her feet up in the air, still singing live, walking out on stage, doing likely a scream live, and then dancing more and performing. I mean, the whole thing was just... I'm a huge fan. We have to celebrate when it's live and let people know that this is what a real human being singing without pitch correction, auto-tune, or lip syncing sounds like. Lady Gaga, you are a pioneer, it feels like, into this new AI digital dimension of music. And I'm so impressed that you're singing live here. I'm so impressed with this performance. I think it's creative on a million levels. Way to go. So cool, so cool. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm curious what you're going to say. Sending you love. I'll see you in my next reaction. Cheers.